So today we're going to talk a little bit about the government of the United States. It's March 18th, March 18th, 2021, and they've dropped the ball a little bit, and they've done some good things. So there's always going to be a mix of good and bad. Whenever you have any government, it's always going to be corrupted. There's always going to be some level of corruption that nobody wants to talk about but needs to be talked about, and there's tons of people covering the subject piece by piece. Um, Whatever you want to say, the hypocrites. You can go back from one or two terms. Um, if a Say if a U.S. senator says something about one president and they're affiliated with them, a Republican will say it's okay for another Republican. But when the Democrat comes into office, the same thing that they said about the Republican will not be okay for the Democrat because we're so polarized. I know everybody's seen plenty of videos about how the U.S. is polarized. We're either ones or zeros. We either Democrats or Republicans. We either good or nice. We either not exist or loud and brash. I watched a video the other day about teachers. We hire a lot of school systems are hiring teachers from other countries because the government pays our employees so low that they have to get people from third world countries to come and do the jobs for half the pay because Americans can't survive on it. But the immigrants will go 2, 3, 4 people in a room and they'll take half pay because they send it back to where the money is worth twice as much. So that's how the government gets around it. I've been watching so many videos just to broaden my horizons as far as what's actually going on. But to someone in the US, when we live here, we were born here, if anyone wants to know, the government's been bought and sold. It's been bought and sold for as long as I can remember, before I was born. The videos that show whoever it is, your congressman or your senator or your president, will say one thing and then will say the exact opposite. There's tons of videos online. There's so many, I lost track. Like just doing the research to talk a little bit about our government, where do you even begin? The war on drugs with Nixon had more to do with arresting black people. That's why the percentage is off. There's videos about that. You can look that up. More black people get arrested. They get pat down more than white people do. They do the same amount of drugs. All the way to Joe Biden bombing Syria or Iran. They bombed somebody, and they had that video of the guy saying, "Oh, he still owes me $2,000." We got our checks the other day, but as far as they'll spend $1 billion on a useless fighter, and people that actually need the money won't get it. In a nutshell, our government is. What I really want to say is our government is not the people.
No.
If someone watches, we are not our government. We try to elect the best people, but they never do what we want them to do because it's so polarized.
Well, they're not going to do what we want them to do because it's not in their best interest. They're not worried about us as the people. They're looking out for themselves.
Right, to the ability to get reelected.
And they're campaign contributors.
Yes,
You know,
that's what I'm
big
saying.
business.
I'm not. It's not hyperbole. It's the truth. Our government has been bought by rich people and corporations.
Governments are run by the top
they
1%.
The best example I can give is why we still have the penny. We only still have the penny because it's a useless currency. It costs 1.5 cents to make a penny. No one wants to use them. You can throw them on the ground. Again, there's videos on that. It's why, partly why I love YouTube, is because literally everything, somebody makes a video about it. I haven't not found anything, at least yet. But they use the money that they make to pay people in office not to get rid of them. It's completely useless. No one needs a penny. Yet we still have it. And no one, if you ask them, they're too busy. You know, I don't have time to worry about trivial matters. What's not trivial matters, it all adds up. It's a building block, like playing Tetris. You know.
Big stories right now, cancel culture. If it offends you, we just cancel it.
Well, government has nothing to do with the cancel culture.
Sure it does.
How so? How do you see it?
Well, it's the left side, aka the Democrats. They're, how to put it, goes along with, you know, accepting everybody as who they are. Whether you're born a man, but you define yourself as a woman.
Like Joe Biden, one of his first executive actions was to make sure that transgender women could compete in women's sports, and they automatically, there's a lawsuit now. It doesn't affect the men. Any woman that transitions to a man that's transgender never does any better than kids against NBA players. But the men that go from men to women, whether it's wrestling or basketball or track and field, automatically they blow them out. They weightlifting, there's no contest anymore.
Yeah, because
I do find that really interesting.
Well, yeah, they have male genes. I don't understand, and you know, it's not politically correct to say born a male or female anymore. It's what you are assigned at birth. Were you assigned the title of a male or assigned the title of a female at birth?
All right, half the states do take the birth certificate. If you're a female, you have to compete against the females, but if you're a male, you have to compete against the males. It is related to our government because it does feel like pandering. It feels like they're pandering to voters. Another thing they love to do. You know, we love small businesses, but they pay all the taxes. Jeff Bezos pays no taxes. How many GE pays no taxes? They make $1 billion a year, and they kick back the money. Another reason you can look it up. The middle class pays more taxes than the high class does, but the high class will say, well, we pay $1 million. Yeah, compared to what, $1 billion?
You're right.
$10 billion? No, we make $50,000 and we have to pay $10,000 in taxes. Okay, we pay 1/5 of ours. You pay 1/100th. Okay, it's not the same. I'm sorry. And nobody does anything because socialism.
So
it's communism.
So it's more becoming socialism.
We have Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and we have a few smaller things. Section 8 food stamps that like the same way with with money we send overseas, different countries, financial aid we send to them. The budget, you can't find it with a jeweler's eye. The budget is basically the military, and what do? We endless wars.
With the cancel culture, that comes down to media, social media, which is the government's mouthpiece.
You know, like Fox News, Newsmax, OAN for Republicans, and well, I don't know what you would say the far left is, because you have the centrist left, which are backed by the Democrats. You've got, CNN, a few others. There's no real independent media, I think, covers the far left the best. I don't know if you've seen the Young Turks, David Pakman. There's a few left-leaning shows that kind of show their point of view, but I don't think there's any standard media, if you turn on your TV, you've got moderates and you've got right wing. You've got the middle and you've got the right. Only independent only independent media shows the actual left progressive outside of Bernie Sanders, ALC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, a few of the left-leaning that are only talking about adding a few small details, which is not. It's in our best interest to have a higher minimum wage. So you get a job, you're telling me that someone can pay you in 2021 $7.25 an hour. You think that's fair from the richest country on the world? That's not even close. And the government allows it. Like, not even, what, $9? Like, you can't go $9? How about 9? How about 10? It doesn't have to be 15. They could have said, okay, well, you know, we don't to 15. How about 10-10?
Well, originally it was supposed to have been that already.
Yeah, under Obama, they should have had 10-10. I think the federal worker minimum wage might be a little bit higher, but the federal minimum wage for your everyday person has been stagnant for as long as I could remember. Well, I mean, I remember what, $5.25.
I remember
The government had
four
it
and a quarter.
4 1/4.
Mhm.
I think when I first started working, it was $5.25, and you wouldn't, like, taxes would take a fourth of it, and you might get like $75 a week. I mean, as a kid, you wouldn't make anything. It would be completely worthless. And the government lets it go, so we let that go. Even though I don't know if you've seen it, but somebody did 330 million people in the U.S. times 1.9 trillion, or divided by,
Right.
and it comes out to almost $6,000 per individual. So we get $1,400 this time. One time this year, we're never going to get it again. I don't know who. You're watching. Don't hold your breath. We're getting no more money. We got, I think, 1,200, 600, and 1,400 3 times in over a year. But the government, what do they do with the rest of that money? 1,400 from almost 6,000.
Yeah, that was the, what, 9%?
I mean,
9% of the $1.9 trillion. So where 9% of $1.9 trillion. Not billions, not millions, trillion.
the taxpayers have to pay that back. The government's not paying that back. You are.
And the rest of it goes to bailouts and government, big business.
I mean, does anybody actually know where the money's going? I mean, are you even sure where it's going? That's what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. That's the government. It's not the people. I vote libertarian. I wish we had a third party. The only reason it stays the same is because everybody votes one or the other. Until we can get away from this good or bad, everything's binary, nothing's going to change. The healthcare, I mean, we're not even on the metric system. We're one of, 3 countries that use the imperial system of...
Yeah.
Again, it's completely pointless. Daylight savings time, again, completely pointless. Obamacare, they try to repeal it 43 times and don't succeed. And it gets tiring. It does get tiring. Waiting and waiting and waiting. But that's the only system we have. I mean, everybody loves the system. Whether they, 10% of Americans approve of Congress, right? They still vote for the same senators. Why do we have Ted Cruz? Cancun Cruz. Why do we have him? What possible reason? It has an R by his name. Tribal.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah. He's been a senator as long as I've been alive, and I'm getting old. the man will. I've said it before. I mean, not on here, but to other people. He's going to die in office. They're talking about him quitting now, but he's going to secure his seat for another Republican. There's so much to talk about, but if like I said before, if I have one message to say to anyone that's looking from anywhere other than here, the people are not the government. The government, they don't speak for us. People think they do. They have opinions, but it's absolutely pointless. Until all the old people die and the new young idealists get in, we're just spinning our wheels. You know, it's
Start giving the senators and governors terms, just like a president.
yeah. But until you get the ones out that don't speak for us, there's nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
It's how the top 1% stays the top 1%.
And when millennials and Gen Z get up to the top and they start actually figuring out how bad it is, even as much good as what we have, there's way more bad associated with it, and all they have to do is just vote in somebody that will change the laws one time, and that's it. If they really want change, eventually it'll happen, but here in the United States we're stubborn. It's going to have to get bad before it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
There's, until you're homeless on the street, you're not going to understand what it's like to be homeless on the street. If somebody's paying you $150,000 a year to BS people at the state capitol, you're going to adapt real quick. I've heard that actually a few times from people overseas. You take somebody, say, from an Asian country and you bring them over here, all they're used to knowing is the school of hard knocks. The middle, even the middle of the low class is a step up for them. They will adapt real quick, and it's just going to take time. It's the same thing. So while we have as many negatives as we do have, I don't think it'll happen in our lifetime. Most likely when we get to the end of our lives, they'll probably start thinking, well, okay, now we have to actually give health care to people. Even though it's been proven that it's cheaper to have Medicare for all by the Koch brothers than it is to have two middlemen. It's just going to take time for all the old people to go away and the young people to be old and
cheaper for the people of the United States, but the government can't make as much money that way.
Yeah. So we're going to get to that point eventually. I don't know how long it's going to take, but when, something's going to have to give at some point with our government. They're going to have to go back to being for the people. They're not going to be able to keep giving tax breaks to the rich. How many billionaires pay no taxes? I mean, how long do you think that's going to last? It's not going to work. How long is 725 going to last? It's not going to work. How much is just your food budget for the week? While those aren't the actual jobs, fast food or whatever does pay minimum wage, $7 to $8, those aren't actual job. They are jobs, but they're not considered worthy of your money. McDonald's, the corporation, is worthy of $1 billion, but McDonald's, the employee, is worthy of taking your tax money to pay for their food stamps. So how long? Again, it's all the government. We just have to wait, keep voting our conscience, keep fighting, and see what happens. That's just a little bit. I mean, we can talk all day. I mean, we could literally go over every little detail from decades and decades and decades. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about our general opinion, at least right now, March 2021,
Yeah.
how we feel. Give, you know, maybe somebody finds something interesting. I don't know if you feel like that's helped. If there's any specific topic, um, anything like when you have someone that's here, do you actually want to know? There's plenty of people to ask, but you know, just a few things to get off our chest. At least for this, I feel like it's been a nice general description, at least for now. We'll go into more depth of all of it in future videos. Of course, if there's anything anybody wants to know or see or hear, all you have to do is just ask, comment down below, and we'll make a personalized video, or at least I will, maybe through the week. And I think that'll be it for our little spiel about the government, at least for today.
Yeah.
We'll have more topics here in a minute. And all right, and we'll see everybody on the next video.